Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
So I want to give a shout out to James and his wife, Sue. Where are we right now? The Cabinista. Hi, Cassie. You look awesome.
Thank you.
That sweater, straight up, looks like you're at a ska show in 1994. I'm wearing my class shirt. I don't know, am I right? 93? 96?
I'm wearing a flannel.
2000. 90. See, she's so way cooler than us. What's up, James?
Good. I'm doing all right. I just wanted to say that Cabinista comes out of this show, this podcast, because our first episode was The Clash, Sandinista.
Yes.
And at that time, we were looking for a place to live up in the mountains, and we wanted to find a name for it. And one of my daughters said, call it Cabinista, because we've been listening to Sandinista a lot around that time, and it just sort of stuck. And Cabinista became the name.
Big shout out to Team Joyce.
To Team Joyce.
The whole Joyce family, thank you for letting us. I know you don't just let anybody hang out here. This place for you guys watching is a slice of heaven, and hanging out with your best friends, talking about music. Who's better than me? Who's better than me? I'd like to meet the man. So what we try to do in this show is evolve and grow and go, let's say, to uncharted waters and do different things. So over the next few months, we may do like Not the Record You Would Think, or maybe compilations and stuff. And this is a soundtrack. We always talk about we should talk about a soundtrack. Totally.
And that's also where Dance Craze came in when we talked about Dance Craze.
And we love that with Timo, yeah.
With Timo. But that's kind of, yes, it is a soundtrack technically, but in a way, this is also a soundtrack that we chose.
Right.
But
that was like an 8-hour concert film.
Yes.
This is just a movie that's like a country,
soundtrack.
western, reggae, bad cowboy flick with awesome music.
Yes. And a very important record for an entire country and an entire genre of music.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous. Because I wonder if you ask people, what did you hear first, the soundtrack or see the movie and then get the soundtrack? I think I heard the soundtrack first.
Oh, I would say almost everybody.
I would say,
yeah, at least in America.
Especially outside of Jamaica. Probably even in Jamaica, you probably heard the soundtrack before.
In the UK,
Wait, stop this train.
Uh-oh.
Stop this train. We need to say what record it is.
Yeah, well, no, we're not stopping, because that's what we do. We move forward. Stop that train. I want to get on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So what's the soundtrack?
What's the soundtrack?
You do it.
The Harder They Come by Jimmy Cliff.
That's right.
Absolutely brilliant, precious, lovely. I've been saying lovely too much lately. It's a really beautiful record, though. So let's get into it.
We
just listened to it just an hour ago.
I love that, by the way.
In Cabinista.
I have my I was on the way driving up here, so we were driving, and Greg was driving, and I was looking out the window, and we were listening to the soundtrack, and I was doing I had this. I don't think it's like deja, but it was a very sentimental moment, because I remembered. My mom. We moved around a lot when I was younger. My mom was, in the military.
You're a military
We'd take
child.
road trips, and I realized that I had listened to this so much while my mom was driving. We were driving different parts of the country, just staring out the window. And then I started crying when I realized that, how were you listening to things? You had the tape, and then I realized that this tape that I have with me right now is the same one that, say, 30 years ago, I was like driving in the car with my mom.
In your Walkman.
And you're wearing
on a tape deck.
In the car.
And you're wearing your ska sweater and your flight jacket.
And you know what? This sweater I really did have back then, and I really did wear, regularly. So it just kind of, I'm like, 30 years, and that now it's like Greg driving, and I'm listening to this.
Yeah,
wait a
minute. We need to give a shout out to Greg, big time. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. He set up all this, and if it sounds nice, it's because Greg.
And if it sounds bad,
did the right
it's because
thing.
Blame it on me.
No, it's not Greg's fault.
It's the mountain air.
But I do say that music is transformative. And we, some people think different things about nostalgia. I mean, some people will say nostalgia is looking backwards, and I don't think that should happen or whatever. But I also think, I think that there is like I said, a transformative aspect to music, and it brings you back to a different time and place.
And I think it's different for everybody because I am a very
Everybody's
sentimental
different.
person. So for
Sure.
me, I think that's one of the reasons why music is so important to me is that it can bring back memories that maybe things I had forgotten about and wonderful, fun moments. Sometimes even sad moments that actually changed me or meant something.
If it made you cry, which we're big fans of crying on the show, if it brought you back to this place. I can't only think it's only a good thing.
Yeah,
you know what I
it
mean?
was,
Because
it was.
like sentimental moods are awesome, and we're getting older, and we need to. James and I were talking about it driving out here to the Cabinista. It's like stuff flies by quick, and that's why we're doing the show. That's why we're trying to do good things, interesting things, and tackle and embrace all the good stuff. And how cool is it that you hear a song. You hear the soundtrack, and you're thinking about you and your mom traveling and driving around 30 years ago.
Well, also, I will say there are two artists on here that I saw with her that she took me to see. So Desmond Dekker is my favorite ska artist, and probably like one of my favorites.
You're number
in general.
one, yeah.
And I remember we were living in Chicago, and I was 19, and he was touring, and I found out he was playing in a place called Cubby Bear, but you couldn't. It was 21 and over.
Cool name.
That's a really good name for a venue.
Even
Cubby
if
Bear.
I want to open a place called Cubby Bear too.
Even if you were with
TOO.
well, I think it's because the Cubs. I think it's the Cubs,
That's
right?
fine.
But
I'm calling it,
It was 21 and over, and they wouldn't let you get in, even if you had an adult,
a parent
21,
or guardian,
right?
yeah.
How old are you? 19?
Yeah, I was 19.
Well,
There wasn't the internet, so I researched and I was able to track down through getting in touch with looking at the record finding numbers towards the tour manager and stuff, and the company, and then I found out that he was going to be playing in Minneapolis, I think the next day or a couple days later. She drove, and that was also 21 and up, but they would let you in if you were with it.
Shout out to your mom.
I know to Minneapolis to see Desmond Dekker, and it was so incredible.
I often say that you are way cooler than me. And I've never seen Desmond Dekker, so today I'm saying you're way cooler than me. I love Desmond Dekker.
Cassie's mom gets bonus points for that. I would think about, my daughters and taking them someplace like that. I think I would do it, but it'd be I'd be pretty amazed if they were into somebody,
as cool as Desmond Dekker.
As Desmond Dekker, whatever the modern day equivalent of Desmond Dekker would be. I'm going to go.
Because you got to remember too, this is before ska kind of got big for the second or third time. So it really is this underground cult thing that you're following.
But at this time, when I got into ska, I was 18. Right? So I mean, it was.
I love all that stuff. Prince Buster,
Jamaican
Desmond
music.
Dekker,
I think it was
Toots
originally.
Hibbert,
I think it was originally. Probably two-tone ska without realizing that it was ska, because everybody was but then it was it was in Berkeley, and a friend of mine went to a show, and you got to check out this music ska, and so we went to the show, and ended up
Berkeley's going to be mentioned a lot today.
Berkeley,
I have a feeling.
A lot of Berkeley talk.
I have a strong feeling
in these two episodes.
Yeah,
yes.
but
cheers,
yeah.
James
So
and
I guess my thing
love.
is I wouldn't say it took me a little while to get into it, and my mom was super cool. I think that you would still, you would take it. You took them.
Oh yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I would.
Sure.
I'm saying I absolutely would. I'm just thinking about who that would be.
Yeah,
who would be the equivalent? It would be somebody from the 90s probably.
Oh yeah.
Because this would have been somebody from the 60s to the 90s. It'd be 90s to 2020s.
It would be like seeing. Very good question because it still never broke big in America.
Yeah. True.
So it'd be like you saying you wanted to see I don't even know, maybe Elvis Costello or something.
Yeah.
Well, I also got to see Jimmy Cliff because then I think it was in '92 then. So then I would have been 20. When she had gotten transferred to Fort Knox, she took me to Louisville because Jimmy Cliff was playing in Louisville. So I got to see Jimmy Cliff as well, and he was a lot older. They both put on an incredible show, considering that they were pretty old.
I can say I played a festival with Toots Hibbert.
That's pretty cool.
We'll talk about that later. And he, rest in peace. Man, all these guys, rest in peace. He was like James Brown. He was doing red leather pants, doing splits, and he was 60 then.
Well, what was your first how did you first come across this
How did I
album?
come?
And then,
Yeah, good
I think
question.
that's kind of
Well, we get
crux of
into this in the show, and one thing I love about it first is we're fans, which we're fanatics, we're nerds, you know. So it's pretty known that I was a new wave kid in New York, which was also very much 80s underground hip hop, that led to punk, that led to ska. So I certainly was listening to new wave bands and then The Clash, and then I probably heard The Clash's Pressure Drop before I heard Toots Hibbert's.
Yeah,
and I don't like The Clash's cover at all, and I'm a huge Toots fan.
It's
I'm a
pretty
huge
standard.
Clash fan. Hey, what's up,
did you
guys?
know that the Ivan that is referenced in The Guns of Brixton is the character?
Yeah. He's talk about the harder they come.
I don't think that I ever really put that
we
together.
knew that.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you hear,
maybe I just wasn't.
If you listen to the lyrics, you can tell.
Yeah, under the Brixton sun.
So then I bought this record, and then I was in some bad ska bands, and then some good and better ska bands, and certainly played with James back in the day, and then I dove right in. The specials were huge to me, and then but also. It was all of these, or like I mentioned, Prince Buster earlier, Toots Hibbert, Desmond Dekker, Jimmy Cliff as well, and anything that and anything that's from Jamaica or the Jamaican parts of England, you know,
Sure.
I just like Steel Pulse, huge band for me, like up there with John Coltrane, you know.
Right.
And then so I discovered this, and I probably, being the fan and the fanatic and the nerd, I probably sat down and watched the movie with my brother, and you know, just to listen to the soundtrack. And it wound up being just something you have in the background. We didn't watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I saw it first, and I'll where did my copy go? Here's my copy.
Yeah.
Once again, $2.99 from
crazy.
Princeton Record Exchange.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's hear it for Princeton Record Exchange. I mean, I know I rented it at Movies We're Seeing in the Highlands, and we watched it. Probably me and Rich Morris probably watched it together when we lived together. But I knew a lot of these songs because if you played in a ska band and you
covered some of those songs, yeah.
It was just part of the. Part of the culture. It was part of the language, is knowing these songs. Even if you didn't have the Harder They Come soundtrack, like you knew the Jimmy Cliff songs, you knew, the Desmond Dekker, the Maytals stuff. Like you all had compilation tapes with these songs on them. Maybe not.
And we talked about that earlier. Mixtapes, they would have a punk song and then a reggae song.
Yeah.
A punk song and a ska song. And all these songs were on those mixes.
And this album itself is such a great sampler of Jamaican reggae, early reggae, ska. Yeah. It's such a great cross-section. It's a greatest hits and a great introduction to people in other countries, in the UK, anywhere outside of Jamaica, of like, here, this is amazing music being made in this country.
Yeah.
You should check it out. And I'm sure a lot of people around the world, this was their introduction to reggae music or ska music.
I think it was the first, like, I think it was like the first Jamaican, not really Jamaican movie, maybe Jamaican movie that was shown outside of Jamaica and really opened people up to the country and the sound and like the culture.
Sort of brought the world, Jamaica to the world.
And
Island Records.
In 2021, the National Library of Congress introduced it as they have a list of records that they put on like some national registry.
Cultural significance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
no, this is an album of cultural significance.
And it's the
of
only,
Jamaica.
or I think at the time it was
reggae.
the first reggae album to be in there, and that was 2021, so I don't know if there's, it was just recently put in there.
James and I both had moved here from the north, him New Jersey and me Queens, New York, about the same time, and then met 86. You shortly after that. Met you in like '94, and it really was an awesome, exciting time in Atlanta. Great punk shows, great ska shows, and at every show there'd be a DJ playing all the stuff.
Yes.
Like it was just so like when I met you and we went to shows. Like I wasn't wearing this. I sometimes wore a suit. Like it was awesome. You made a night of it. And my other point I've been wanting to say all week long is how many thousands, I'm thinking tens of thousands, of Rastas and punk rockers have had Many Rivers to Cross play at their funeral.
Oh, wow.
True.
Totally. Like it's a funeral song. Like what a gorgeous song.
I know
like,
that when we went to England, one of my things was like, I gotta go down and see like the White Cliffs, but you can't because you're either up there and you can't see them. Like, you
gotta drive over the other side. Yeah.
But it was like I really want to go down there and see
them.
But
Many Rivers to Cross. How many times?
I saw the White Cliffs.
Did you?
Yeah, when we were on tour there, we just where we crossed the English Channel, you could see it. But yeah, I mean, what was I going to say about that?
Many Rivers to Cross.
Many Rivers to Cross. Exactly. I was going to mention the Harry Nilsson version.
Yeah, I need to.
Because we were talking about that.
We're going to do that after this. Yeah.
So I think Harry Nilsson did a version of Many Rivers to Cross on the Pussycats album, which is like 73 or something. Like still like very recent song, like some.
It just came out and then he covered. That's amazing.
And then he's there with John Lennon singing this version of it, and he makes it. And it sounds like this amazing gut-wrenching ballad.
Ooh, it's got chill.
It's cool. But it's Jimmy Cliff's song.
Yeah, and
it's amazing that he would decide to do that.
I think I've had that conversation a million times. Usually between 3 and 5 a.m. when Many Rivers to Cross come out, someone going, "It'd be a good funeral song." I'm like, yeah.
We'll be playing it after midnight.
Yeah,
we'll put on Many Rivers to Cross.
In the mountains because there's be no neighbors to complain. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what my favorite song on the record is. You want a chorus?
I'll have a chorus. My girls love this album because of the pirate movie, which I talked about on the Pogues episode, where they have "You Can Get It If You Really Want." They have many songs on this are in. "The Harder They Come" is on it.
Yeah,
I mean it's funny because kids who are born in the 2000s know these songs, just because they're ubiquitous.
Well, the thing is like
they're part of our language.
I mean, good ska music, horns and these happy melodies. Kids love it. It's like they're at the circus all day. Like it's the best. And then you got songs like it's not on this soundtrack, but like Desmond saying like "You can get it if you really want," like Israelites. It's like how could you not be? Look at us, we're smiling, singing along.
Right.
Yeah, it's an inspiring album. It makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deeply like legendary feeling album. Every song is a like monumental anthemic song of a generation.
Right.
For sure.
What's interesting is like you were talking about "You Can Get It If You Really Want" from
Desmond.
From Desmond Dekker.
Love.
But the version that's on this is Jimmy Cliff.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying.
Messes with you.
So interesting.
I was saying that because Desmond Decker's version's not on it, but him and the Aces, I had that version.
But here's the interesting thing is it's got the exact same. I'm pretty sure Jimmy Cliff wrote the song, but Desmond Dekker put it out with his vocals first. But the track that's on here,
they did some tricks.
It has the exact
It's the same backing.
track.
Oh no, they just took out one vocal and put in the other.
Exactly.
But that's part of also this of Jamaica and Kingston.
Culture that was going on at the time.
And that leads
let's bring this singer into this.
And that leads to my next thing. Us being the nerd now, the tech nerds. It's like my favorite recordings of any genre over 50 years of music, rock and roll, ska, jazz, is when shit's broken. Like there's someone's got a microphone taped to a vacuum cleaner, and stuff's hanging out of the ceiling, and it's just
Studio One.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. All the studio. So this stuff right here. You hear. It's almost like seeing Marvin Gaye after 4 days being up for 4 days, singing the national anthem. Like you love the imperfections.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
One thing that I think is, like Jamaica at the time, especially really, really poor country, right? So a lot of these people, so they had, I guess, kids could decide that they wanted to try their luck at being a musician or being a singer, and they could go in, and a lot of these record companies, they would make a single for them, and then they'd take them and they'd play them at like dance halls and stuff. And if they got a good reaction, then the same people that put it out would put it in record stores.
Yeah.
So it was.
If
really
not, they would melt it all down and then make another one.
Put another singer over that band.
But so Leslie Kong was really like he oversaw most most of this musically.
Which, by the
There's
way,
only one song that
might be the coolest name ever.
Leslie Kong?
Yes.
Well, Leslie Kong, actually, Jimmy Cliff wrote, so Leslie Kong and his brothers owned a record store.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a paper in college about like the beginnings of ska.
Where is it?
So
I want to see this.
Oh, this was a long time ago.
Well, I'm going to cry and see it.
I mean, I need to find that and post it,
But
please.
so Leslie Kong,
Yeah, we'll put it at the end of this.
Jimmy Cliff, Leslie
in the
Kong owned a
credits.
record store with his brothers, and Jimmy Cliff like wrote a song called Beverly. The record store was called Beverly's.
Yeah.
Jimmy Cliff wrote the song Beverly's and took it to him, and he said, he pitched not like them producing it, like I
Yeah.
wrote this for you, produce it, and so Jimmy Cliff got Leslie Kong into like being a producer
Into
and
the
recording.
business, yeah.
But then. Leslie Kong then later is responsible for Desmond Dekker's rise. So it's just kind of like how, Desmond Dekker probably was more of a well-known artist, the most well-known artist that was on this at the time. Because, some of the one Desmond Dekker song, that had already been out for maybe like 4 or 5 years before this soundtrack even
Shantytown,
came out.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting, like, how close-knit. Like all of the kids are trying to struggle out of poverty by making it big, but then they still were kind of like, I'm sure it was fiercely competitive, but also it was very
But there's
connected.
a certain amount of like Motown sort of Jamaican,
and to be honest,
like Studio One is like Motown.
I kind of
and-
wish people still did that. You know what I'm saying?
it's
and
a
by the way,
very
you notice
hungry
Pressure Job.
scene.
Pressure Job is written by Toots Hibbert. But the band is the Maytals. It's not Toots and the Maytals yet. It wasn't until the late 70s when they were doing stuff like a big festivals in England with the Stones that he was the front man. He was like the James Brown of reggae doing Toots, so.
It's,
And there's so many
a monumental album, and
down.
I mean we're covering huge wide swaths of like Jamaican music and reggae
in the mountains in Cabinista.
But also the exposure of reggae outside of Jamaica. So this right here is the sampler.
Yeah.
It's
This
like
is the introduction.
The Bible of
Because with Bob Marley and everything else, like reggae was exploded and became a phenomenon culturally in the United States, and of course in the UK it was part of their culture because
in England,
because of the connection, obviously, and everything.
I was going to say,
I think even with this was also very important in helping to solidify that also in the UK though too. Like it was just
well, this album, I would say this album. And maybe a couple of others we could say, but definitely this album was one of them that like really broke reggae
to the world,
internationally, outside of that's outside of Jamaica and maybe England.
So like
maybe
know how it was for us. Let's say you bought a record from like SST or something, and you'd look at all the bands that were on it.
Yep.
Well, same with here. You're like, wait, who's this Island Records? Who's this Chris Blackwell guy? And he did this. And wait a minute, what is Studio One? And next thing you know, you're discovering the Gay Lads.
You're finding any record you could that had a connection to this.
The Ethiopians.
And just being like, I'll buy that, I'll buy that, I'll buy that.
Yeah, and but I do agree. It's almost like this is like the Bible or the Ten Commandments. It's like, so let's say when someone goes, I want to listen to this. Where do I start?
Rosetta Stone. Of
where do
like,
I start? You give them this, and they go,
reggae.
Go. You're taking off your training wheels. Now just go and learn.
And do you want to talk about the funny thing is that, yes, it's a sampler, but then like 2 of the songs are even repeated on the album.
Big time, yeah.
It's just like, but I still love it. Like I'll still listen to it, and it's still. I don't care that the same song in a different version appears later.
You realize,
in the album.
and they're both the last songs.
And it's just
it's like, were you guys out of songs? Like, what's going on?
It wasn't, but I still love it. I don't care. Like it's a perfect album.
No, it's one, it's a feel good, and like. I probably repeat myself every third episode, but like no matter what kind of music it is, like Tom Waits has this great saying. He goes, "I love beautiful melodies telling me horrible things." And like reggae and ska, like some of these songs actually are like yo, you got this. Like you can get it if you really want. Like, but they're like fighting anthems, but they sound so happy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like this wonderful trick that it's playing on you.
Right.
And but you know what I'm saying.
But what I was trying to say here about this is that the songs are very uplifting, but they're also related to struggle.
That's
to
the
a very deep level that even people in the United States, I mean, obviously.
All over.
all over, but it's something everybody can relate to, but also for this country that's recently been independent.
It's a poor country.
It's now no longer part of the British Empire. They've created their music. I mean, this is an early artistic statement of Jamaica.
Even the album cover. That album cover is like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's the best $3 I've ever spent. I gotta say.
I was gonna say I'd spend $6 on that. I'd spend $16 on that.
I mean, it's this along with Funky Kingston, which we also just listened to just recently.
Funky Kingston might be the best album of any genre ever made. But we may be hitting that down the road, you know.
But we're talking about seminal Jamaican albums that really brought Jamaica compared to any other nation as their own unique music that translates globally. That it's just
I can say that for me. I mean, I wouldn't put it on like what I mean as far as like my top records, like top like 3 or top 5. I wouldn't say that this is that, but I would say that if I had to pick one record that probably has that was the most that I connect the most to like a time in my life when I was really establishing my that really is most sentimental for me.
You have a personal connection to this album.
I would say
sure.
This one would top the list. It's because of
to me, I don't have a personal connection specifically like you do of like with your parents and stuff.
It's more
but the music itself, it hits all the different points for me.
The thing with me and the same as you is like I'm this. I say nerd, but I'm this music fan who's also trying to become a musician who my brain, I know it's this big sponge and I want to take in as much as I can to learn.
Yep.
So I'm taking all this stuff in. And so I'm just learning. And I'm like discovering, oh, wait a minute, man, half of these songs the horns are doing the lead. There's no guitar. The guitar's just going ska, ska, ska like that, you know? And this really, it's just completely different than any music I've known. I was listening to the Cars before this, whatever. My other thing I wanted to talk about, like when you guys go out and buy this record, which you should, I doubt it's $2, it's probably like $102.
No, I think you can get it because
I think this is a very reasonable.
But you got to read the back. You got to read the back of this record because the opening line goes, "Shantytown, Jamaica, where the best grass in the world sells for $2 an ounce in the street, where shooting a film can be held up when an actor is shot. 2 people have died since the film was completed." That's the opening line of the back of this record. For that reason alone, you should not get this record. Like, I mean, isn't that insane?
Right.
Like, I mean, so it's like what James is saying. Like, it's like this gorgeous dichotomy. You know, it's like it's struggle and streets, but to these happy melodies and horn lines.
Yeah, true.
You know?
Did you say what your favorite was on it?
Oh my goodness, probably Many Rivers to Cross. Many Rivers to Cross is just like, it's a late night jam for me. Tonight we're all gonna be hugging in the mountains in Cabinista.
I'm gonna obviously be predictable and say that my favorite is the Desmond Dekker song.
Yeah.
Sure, Shantytown.
I always call it 007, I don't,
Yeah. It's probably 007 Shantytown.
But you know what's really
So real quick, another cool thing is because he's almost rapping. But thank you, Greg, again. You know the lyrics. He goes, so they loot and they shoot and they go to. I mean, so it's again street. Don't forget the streets. Don't forget the struggles. I'm going to do something that I've been wanting to do for 7 episodes now, and I know James and Cassie Cass got my back. Shout out to Darryl Wote in Canada.
Yes.
This man watches every episode of ours.
Thank you, Darryl.
And he sends us notes, and he really loves it. So I want to say cheers to Darryl. Cheers to Greg. Cheers to Team Joyce. We're not out yet. We got a few more. We got a couple more minutes. But this is just. I know I've been saying it a lot, but this has just been a lovely day. Like it's been such a good day.
Yes, I'm going to say something really interesting about all of.
Tell me, Cassie.
Well, all of I hadn't listened to this from start to finish in a while.
We just did.
Well, I know. Leading up to this, But I had listened to all the songs kind of like on shuffle, like they're on my
right.
So
Throughout.
But like so one that I always kind of skipped back in the day was the Sweet and Dandy, and I think it's that kind of like. But now once going back,
but it's
and listening
perfect
to
on the record where it sits.
No, but even now that I've gotten older, it was a little like I think it was like because there's that little bit where like the beat kind of switches.
Yeah, it's a weird
And it kind of always threw me off, and now I like really appreciate that. So I think that listening back on it, that's kind of like a song that I most was happy to reconnect with this album like in its entirety, because that's one that I kind of overlooked before and wouldn't have gone back and listened to that without picking this record.
Unless you like had listened to it in sequence.
Right, and I didn't have, you don't have a reason to do that when you can.
Yeah, and
but Sweet and Dandy is like, I mean, that's
awesome.
It's the big Maytals, I think, original hit. Like this is the first song that.
And I will say this now that I'm looking, you can't go wrong on any punk like ska or reggae mixtape. You can't go wrong with having Rivers of Babylon or Johnny Too Bad on it.
Johnny Too Bad
should be on every mixtape. Like
I go to that one in a way because
I've covered it before.
All songs on this album are amazing.
Yeah.
But Johnny Too Bad is funny because it's very like like such a rude boy.
Yeah, I mean
anthem.
Steve Earle's covered it too. It's like so many people have covered it.
It's such a like walking down the road with a pistol in your hand.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like the smoothness of it, though, it just doesn't sound
Steve
so.
Earle covered
That's why
Rivers of Babylon.
it's got a good swank to it, like it's maybe not the right word, but like it's definitely got a good it's a moody jam, but it's still.
It's another good one that when you're on tour and you're in another city and it comes on at 3 a.m. and you're like walking down the road and you're just like, man, you're grabbing a partner and dancing.
Yeah,
it's slow skank.
It's a good one. I like that one. I really enjoy. As opposed to all the anthems, it's like a good
because you can get If You Really Want It is such a good anthem.
There's inspirational songs.
It's a great PMA song.
Yeah.
It's a great,
Yeah, but Johnny Too Bad is a good this song is this is a tough song.
It's like a gangster.
It's like a gangster song.
It's like it should have
been.
The
Rude Boy Rumble.
It should have been in Straight to Hell.
Trojan.
Like that song should have been in a gunfight scene in Straight to Hell or something. The Alex Cox film. Man, we had nerds.
It's an amazing album. Everybody should listen to it.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't really know reggae or Jamaican music, I think Harder They Come is like the best place to start.
I do. Or finish.
Or finish. Or if it's the only reggae album you listen to.
Yeah.
I mean, and we can go on a tangent about Bob Marley, which we don't need to do. But
Bob Marley is the closest thing to an angel on this earth.
Sure.
But college kids, put down your Bob Marley Legend album and listen to
The Harder They Come.
Yeah.
I wish more people who liked Bob Marley also like Jimmy Cliff, also like Desmond Dekker, also like Toots and the Maytals.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't want to get too far into that side of things. I do want to celebrate The Harder They Come by Jimmy Cliff and the movie and everything else that comes with it, and everything it's inspired, including Clash, including everything.
Rancid. I mean, like Tim Armstrong just did an album. We were saying with Jimmy Cliff a few years ago, which is great.
He won a Grammy for something that he did with Jimmy Cliff.
I want to celebrate Cabinista, Team Joyce, best friends, life and
Abby being distracting.
Abby, yes,
that's fine.
Adorable.
She went outside.
And I don't know, best friends Saturday, life and music. Good stuff.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you, guys.